Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to the LIFE 2025 Info Day. This is the session about energy communities. We are going to be presenting the ENERCOM topic about developing support services for energy communities. My name is Talia Brun, and I'm going to be your host today. So we will present the kinds of details and the new features of the topic in a few minutes. But before, I would like to give the floor to my colleague Achille Hanoset from NRB1, who will be giving you a bit of the framework and the policy background to this year's topic. The floor is yours, Achille.
Thank you very much, Talia. So indeed, I will be providing you an overview of the EU policy as it pertains to energy communities. So, of course, we have different models of consumer empowerment. As you are well aware, we have the individual households, the multi-apartment buildings, and also beyond multi-apartment buildings, which is usually organized at community scale through energy communities. The energy communities are defined, as you may know by now, in EU legislation as part of the Clean Energy Package. We have the citizen energy communities and the renewable energy communities defined in Article 16 of the Electricity Market Directive and Article 22, the Renewable Energy Directive, and Article 2 in both of the directives, respectively. There's different business models that energy communities can engage with, according also to the EU definitions. The basic principle is that you have a legal entity, a group of people, businesses, and local authorities that come together and invest in energy efficiency measures, which can be building renovations, but it can also be decarbonized heating and cooling solutions, or invest in renewable energy capacity, such as solar and wind. As they generate this electricity, they can then subsequently share it with their members. They can sell it on relevant energy markets, or they can supply this electricity to members, but also customers that are non-members of the community. And lastly, of course, they can engage in local heat transport. The differences between the two concepts that are worth highlighting is the sector in which they can operate. So for citizen energy communities, it's only electricity. For renewable energy communities, it's heating and electricity. For the citizen energy communities, any type of entity or actor may participate and invest in the energy community, but the effective control needs to sit with natural persons, local authorities, or small enterprises. For renewable energy communities, there is a geographical limitation, so it needs to be in proximity of the assets owned by the renewable energy community that the actors that participate in the energy community are located. And they need to be autonomous in the external dimension, but also internally vis-à-vis private interests. The enabling framework for renewable and citizen energy communities. So you see for citizen and renewable energy communities, there are market integration rules that allow for proportionate procedures for licensing, permitting, and also allow them to operate on all relevant energy markets and engage in all relevant energy activities. So not only self-consumption, but also supply, production, aggregation, storage, you name it. Privileges are reserved for the renewable energy communities because they have a more strict governance structure. They're located in a local perimeter, and they are limited to a specific type of actors. And therefore, we have also provided them with an enabling frameworks that ensures access to financing instruments and information, more customized support schemes, removal of unjustified barriers, and regulatory and capacity building support to public authorities. Key Repower EU policy instruments. As a consequence of the COVID pandemic, we had several measures that we've taken in this regard, but also, of course, to tackle the energy crisis that struck us as a consequence of Russia's aggression against Ukraine. that is, of course, still ongoing. Most notably here is the EU solar strategy, where we had a political objective that we share with the member states of reaching one energy community per municipality with a population higher than 10,000 by 2025. And of course, 2025 is still ongoing. The electricity market design is also important to mention in this regard, because we had an intervention there that is pertinent for energy communities, on which I will get back. For the Repower EU guidance and recommendations, most notably there is guidance and recommendations on auctioning of subsidies for energy communities, but also on expediting and speeding up permit granting procedures. So for the Fit for 55 package, of course, the Fit for 55 meaning making the EU fit for its greenhouse gas emission reduction target of 55% through various legal instruments, the Renewable Energy Directive, Energy Efficiency Directive, Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, and the Social Climate Fund regulation that comes as a consequence of the extension of the ETS2. So for Renewable Energy Directive, you see the emphasis is very much on fast-tracking permitting procedures for small-scale installations, which is of course also relevant for energy communities and renewable self-consumers. Also putting in place a single point of contact and simplifying the registration process for guarantees of origin. For the Energy Efficiency Directive, the potential role in alleviating energy poverty, but also in achieving energy saving obligations, also through investment in decarbonized heating and cooling solutions such as district heating systems, but also centralized heat pumps, is recognized explicitly for the energy communities, and member states are encouraged to also use them as an instrument to achieve these objectives. For the Energy Performance of Buildings Directive, most notably is that we are transitioning towards zero-emission buildings, and for this purpose, member states can also enable renewable energy communities that are producing electricity close to these buildings. The building renovation plan should also report on energy communities. Social Climate Fund regulation allows member states also to allocate investments towards energy communities to tackle energy poverty. The electricity market design, I mentioned it already, one of the outcomes of Repower EU, and also a consequence of the communication on the electricity market design, where we regulated in the electricity market amendment of the directive that is currently already in force, which is the amending directive of 2024, which you can find below the code for, so you can look it up as well, and has a transposition deadline of the 17th of July 2026 for the article on energy sharing. Energy sharing allows basically production and consumption to be connected close to real time through virtual operationalization. So energy sharing occurs across the distribution grid or the transmission grid even, and only in the electricity sector. Other key policy documents, the Commission guidance on the RRPs, Commission guidance on the NECPs, and the Commission recommendations to tackle energy poverty. The links you can find here as well to consult. So in terms of outlook, what's next under the current Commission's mandate, the Citizens' Energy Package. Key pillar of the Citizens' Energy Package will be energy communities. The Citizens' Energy Package will include a comprehensive list of actions the European Commission and EU member states can take to further increase the development of energy communities. The time of adoption is estimated at Q4 2024. And with that, I've given you the complete overview, and I thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a successful application.
Thanks a lot, Ashil, for this very comprehensive overview of the legal framework of energy communities. Also, thank you for sharing some of the ideas about what's coming for energy communities. I hope that all project proponents consider this framework when writing their proposals. It's very important that you also in your proposal show some knowledge of what is the legal context in which you will be operating. And now let's start with the ENERCOM topic. So basically, I'm going to be presenting the key elements of this year's topic. I'm going to also try to give you some tips so that you write all great proposals. Of course, whatever I'm going to be presenting does not substitute your need to read in detail the topic text published in the Funding and Tenders portal. So I encourage you to do so before starting to write your proposal, basically. I usually start my presentation by explaining why the legal framework why basically the EU legislation acknowledges the role of energy communities in the energy transition, but I think this was already covered by my colleague Ashil. As he mentioned, member states were asked to develop enabling frameworks for energy communities, and I believe that this year's topic basically can help the local experimentation of some elements of that enabling framework. And so basically, we are going to be supporting the establishment or expansion of support services for energy communities. Those support services can be targeted at new communities that want to kind of establish themselves as a legal entity, or growing existing energy communities into new business models, into new areas. And the idea is that those services provide direct technical support with personalized advice to those communities wherever they are in the process of project development. So from, as I said, from establishment as a legal entity to the operation of the project. That should be the core of all proposals. Some proposals may also choose to also deliver services to help scale up and professionalize energy communities, be it through twinning programs, peer-to-peer exchanges, those kind of things. But that's all that has to come along with direct technical support for project development. And of course, this topic does not only target RECs or SECs, or renewable energy communities or citizen energy communities, but it can target both. And it's a good idea to try to mention already at proposal stage what kind of entities or what kind of communities you will be targeting if you can. Who should deliver those services? So the topic is not prescriptive in terms of the type of actor that should deliver the services. It only mentions relevant local actors, but you have to really justify your choice. So you have to basically, for every entity delivering these support services, you have to argue how it has the expertise, of course, but also you have to demonstrate that it has the support from key stakeholders that would make the action possible, and also that it has a credible approach to engage energy community project developers, so people interested in developing energy communities. And that's quite hard if you arrive anew to kind of a specific territory, so we encourage you to try to select entities that have a routing. Some that are obvious candidates are mentioned as examples in the topic text, so local or regional governments, energy agencies, but some of them, of course, the list provided is not exhaustive, and you may think of other entities provided that you justify that they can demonstrate a kind of local routing and the support from key stakeholders. And a new type of entity that is mentioned as possible service provider in this year's text are umbrella energy community organizations. It is on purpose that there is no definition per se of what that means, but basically what we mean by that is groupings of energy communities that decide to either mutualize services or join forces to support other communities. And we would like to see some proposals from these entities that are increasingly emerging, basically. So how should the service design be conceived? Or we expect you to really look at the specific local challenges of the territory you're going to be working on. You can try to tackle challenges that are linked to energy community development. It may be, I don't know, dialogue with the DSOs. It may be specific financing barriers that energy communities have, but you can also try to tackle to use energy communities to basically tackle broader kind of challenges of the area. So we've seen very successful projects supporting energy communities in context in which there was rural depopulation or things like this. So you have to look at the territory, see its needs, and basically base your concept around that, and also your service design. We don't expect the same service delivery approach in a very dense area than in a more dispersed area, and so on and so forth. So try to really adapt your service design and also the type of support you provide to the needs of the territories you will be working on. You will be asked to specify in the proposal basically the type of support that you will be providing and how it will be delivered. So basically you have to explain staffing. You have to explain whether there will be a hotline to which you can call, or whether there will be one meeting a month. I mean, you have to try to be as precise as possible regarding the way in which the service will be delivered. A constant physical presence is not mandatory. It doesn't make sense for everywhere. In very low density areas, it may be better to have temporary counters or some form of mobile one-stop shop, or have regular meetings. So you have to adapt the approach to the local context, but you have to make sure that you are able to deliver that personalized advice that we are looking for. And of course, you have to really try to specify in your proposal the degree of development of energy communities in the specific context you will be working on. And also, if you're focusing on a specific type of technology, for instance, I don't know, district heating, and your project is going to be supporting the first energy communities developing district heating in that context, we want to know. So you have to try to explain a little bit what's the context of energy communities and also of the technology that you will be looking to basically focus on if you have decided to support a specific technology. Some types of actions, as I said, are encouraged. So, of course, priority will be given to proposals focusing on areas in which energy communities are less developed, and also where in types of activities where fewer energy community experiences exist, such as renovation or district heating. That does not prevent you from writing a proposal on PV energy communities, because in certain contexts it may be still necessary to give support services for those. But just so you know, we want to see more proposals going into harder areas, or areas where there's less evidence or less experiences out there. And there's also, as I said, we mentioned this new type of entity that we would like to see delivering some services, umbrella energy community organizations or grouping of energy communities. And we want to see some of those kind of proposals coming in. So we encourage you to consider those where it's relevant, obviously. Just so you know, for those of you considering resubmissions, because the topic has changed, but it's not radically different from the past, you have to just bear in mind that some approaches that were acceptable up to now are now out of scope. So if your proposal in the past years focused on the provision of generic information and advice and providing access to guidance materials, generic guidance materials, that's out of scope now. We really want proposals to focus on that personalized advice, with some face-to-face element, of course, but also like that, so that the advice is kind of targeted to the community. If your proposal was also centered around delivering an online platform or an online tool with very limited direct human interaction, that's also out of scope. So I would discourage you to reapply with the similar proposals if that was your focus. If you want to apply this year, you need to shift the focus to what's asked now. And then there are also some activities that are a little bit out of scope and that were less explicitly so in the past. So we are not expecting proposals to develop any new tools, any new databases, any new digital platforms. Of course, there are exceptions. So you may be able to argue, you may be able to justify that in some contexts, there's an added value in developing something new, in developing a very specific tool for a technology or in translating existing materials, etc. But we are not expecting you to be very, to devote a big part of your budget developing these kind of tools or databases or platforms. Of course, you will need, in order to do that and to just like use, you will need to try to use what exists. And so we encourage you to, before arguing that you need a new guidance, you have to have a look at what's there. One source can be the archived website of the Energy Communities repository that had a toolbox. There is also some information in the European Energy Communities Facility website, in the Citizen-led Renovation website. And we also have a wealth of projects that are developing tools and guidances that you may look at. I would discourage you from listing everything. This is not, of course, a comprehensive list. It's just a few of them that are ongoing at the moment and quite mature. So they've developed quite a bit of material, quite a few materials. But I would not encourage you to write a list of all these projects. It's much more effective that you list projects that you know have developed stuff that is useful for you. And so I would encourage you to, if you're going to cite any of these projects, to have a look at their websites and their materials and reflect how can they help you. So I would also encourage you, like the text points out, to avoid some mistakes. So one of the key mistakes that we see in past projects or proposals is that there is an inadequate consideration of the need to train the staff developing those services. So please do not undermine undermine the need to basically properly train the people in those service hubs. But you may also want to outline your strategy to train other key actors. So we've seen a lot of successful experiences training local providers, local technical installers, for instance, that then become energy community ambassadors. So it does not need to be restricted, obviously, to the staff of those services, but also to think a bit strategically who you want to train and how. You have to explain that in the proposal. Also, you need to outline a compelling plan to ensure that the service will continue. We cannot fund one-stop shop experiences for 2-3 years and that then die because we don't have funds to support all the one-stop shops or all the services that would be necessary to develop energy communities in Europe. So we want you to one, have continuity, and two, kind of try to replicate beyond your own kind of area, right? So you have to outline a plan to do both of those things, and we don't. And that plan, you need to already at the proposal stage explain some of the actions that you will do. So I will try to meet with so and so. I will try to kind of put together a business plan. I mean, you have to reflect a little bit how will you do that beyond just listing a deliverable in the last month of the project, saying that you will do it. We want some ideas already to be there at proposal stage, and the more concrete, the more credibility you gain. And this is an important part of the proposal. And also, you should not underestimate the knowledge that experts reading your proposals may have of your local area. Of course, not all experts are experts in all the specific local context of all the cities in Europe, but you cannot propose stuff that is already being delivered by someone else in a specific local context, because somebody reading the proposal may think, okay, this is already being done. Why should I fund this additional project on this? So try to make sure that you explain how your service complements what already exists, the local support mechanism, but also the national support mechanism. So don't think that the person reading it is in a kind of reading it from a blank page, but they have quite a lot of detailed knowledge of the context very often. So just be very in mind that. And then so impacts. So basically, this is a criterion that has a higher weight than the rest. So you cannot underestimate the writing of this section when you produce a proposal. We ask you to present the baselines, the assumptions, and the link of those impacts to the project action. So how credible it is that you will reach those impacts with the project action. So credibility is key, of course. So you have to make sure that it's credible, which means that you are not competing. We are not measuring, comparing the impacts of all projects and say, whomever has the highest number of energy communities supported wins. Not at all. We try to assess, one, the credibility, and second, the ambition considering the context. So how ambitious is this in this specific context where there's no energy community? So obviously, for instance, your kind of figures will be lower, but because it's a harder context to develop those kind of projects. So first of all, we look at impacts in context, and second, bear in mind that it's about credibility. So basically, you will be putting together some figures, and my second advice would be to say that the experts that read your proposal need to be able to follow your calculations. So don't fill pages with complex tables where it's impossible to know where your figure is coming from. It has to be legible, right? So it's about making sure that the resources are solid, that it's clear why you think you will arrive to those impacts, and that the calculation, the steps you follow to reach that are clear, right? So try to do that. You will be providing figures for topic-specific impacts that I'm going to present just now, and also for some life-set common indicators. And you will be providing figures for what you will reach during the project, and also for what you expect that will be reached 5 years after the project lifetime. So the topic-specific impacts, you will need to kind of quantify them wherever they're relevant, are First of all, the number of energy community services implemented, the number of energy communities benefiting from the support, so either new or existing entities, the amount of in-person support made available to energy community project developers in terms of person months, for instance, the number of and type of stakeholders with increased skills, the number of local and regional authorities committed to replicate the best practice experiences that you will have delivered, and also, where relevant, the number of groupings of energy communities mutualizing services. The indirect impacts that you may want to try to kind of quantify are the energy communities established thanks to the services that you will be delivering, and also the number of members that those communities will have thanks to what you the services that you provided. But of course, these are more indirect, so they are the impacts of the service that you will be delivering. And here you have kind of the life set indicators that all projects of all topics will need to monitor and quantify. Maybe the only interesting thing here to kind of explain is what we mean by triggered. Triggered means, for instance, in the case of investments, that the investments decision has been taken before the end of the project. So if you say we will have triggered 10 million euro investments, it means that the investment decision, that you have a way to prove or to track that those investment decisions have been made by the end of the project. I think the rest, primary energy savings, renewable energy generation, is quite self-explanatory. So now you can get ready to produce your proposal, to write your proposal. You have until the 23rd of September 2025, so time to brainstorm to find partners, to brainstorm with your partners, to analyze the context, analyze its needs, and then propose a very original and interesting project. The budget available for the topic is 7 million euro. After you get selected, there will be a grant agreement preparation phase. So we expect the projects to start in the summer of 2026, autumn of 2026. And the indicative project size is 1.75 million, but as you know, it's just indicative. You can propose smaller or bigger projects. And that's it from me. I wish you luck in the application process. You can, of course, contact the national contact points. They always have good advice for project proponents, and you can also write to us if you have any question. We will be publishing some frequently asked questions after this info day, but of course you can, if your question is not covered, you're welcome to write us an email and we will reply. So thanks a lot and good luck with your project preparation.